Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Domestic Violence Criminal Justice Response and Enhancement Advisory Council. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's meeting, and I will ask for introduction of council members. I will start on my right and move around the circle to my left, and then we will have folks on Zoom introduce themselves, and I'd ask the clerk to please help me identify anyone that's on Zoom. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Oh, sorry.
I thought it was like
All the way at the end. Sorry.
Oh, all right.
Good afternoon, Johanna Canning for the Division of Public Defender Services.
Good afternoon, all. Alaric Fox, Chief of Police, Enfield Police Department.
Okay, now my turn. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair. Apologize for jumping the gun there a little bit. State Senator John Kissel, serving the fabulous people of Enfield, Summer, Suffield, Windsor, Windsor-Locks, East Granby, and Ellington. And I think I'm here because of my position as the ranking senator on the Judiciary Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is May Flexer. I am a state senator from the 29th District, and following Senator Kissel's lead, I represent Mansfield, Windham, Scotland, Canterbury, Brooklyn, Pomfret, Killingly, Putnam, and Thompson. And I am one of the co-chairs of this council.
Good afternoon. My name is Megan Scanlon. I'm the CEO at the Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence and one of the co-chairs of the council.
Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Leeper, and I represent Fairfield, which was much easier than my good Senate colleagues here.
Good afternoon. Danielle Cinquedolce from the Judicial Branch, Family Services.
I'm Jody Toon. I'm the Director of Family Services, part of Connecticut's Judicial Branch.
Good afternoon, Merritt LaJoy, Complaint Officer for the Office of the Victim Advocate.
Good afternoon. I'm Nancy Turner, representing the Board of Pardons and Paroles.
Thank you. Are there members joining us via Zoom?
Good afternoon, everyone. Gail Hardy. I am the Chief State's Attorney's designee and also the co-chair of the arrest warrants and orders of protection subcommittee.
Good afternoon. I'm Ginger Wilk. I'm the Senior Director of Reentry Services for Community Resources for Justice.
I'll go next. I'm Shauna Harrington, Director of Legal Advocacy at Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence, as well as the other co-chair of the Arrest Warrants and Orders of Protection Subcommittee.
Heather Party.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Heather Party, Captain with the Windsor Police Department.
Mark Pelka.
Good afternoon, Mark Pelka, Judicial Branch, Office of Victim Services.
Nancy Tyler.
Good afternoon. I am an attorney and I am the survivor representative appointed by CCADV to the committees.
Andrea O'Connor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Andrea O'Connor. I'm the Family Violence Victim Advocate Program Manager at the Umbrella Center. I manage the court-based program at New Haven, Derby, and Milford courts.
Ryan Maynard.
Good afternoon, Ryan Maynard, Captain with Connecticut State Police.
Good afternoon, Rob Rosado, Chief of Police, Meriden Police Department.
Good afternoon, Eulalia Garcia, Commissioner Quiros's designee with the Department of Correction.
Michael Tatro, Legal Project Manager of the Coalition, Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
Thanks, Michael.
Okay, I think that covers everyone both physically in the room and on Zoom. So we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the approval of the July 30th meeting minutes, which should be both in members' email and if you are physically here before you at the table. Are there questions or comments on the meeting minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
So move. Second. All in favor?
Motion has been made to approve the minutes made by Merritt LaJoy, seconded by Megan Scanlon. Is there any discussion of the minutes? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Abstentions? I would like to abstain. Thank you. Next, we will move on to item number 4, subcommittee reports and draft recommendations. And we will start with the Law Enforcement Model Policy Subcommittee.
Whether it be to the pleasure or dismay of all gathered here, I have a very short update for you. Our committee has begun contemplating the subject areas that we'd like to tackle in the next year. Great credit to my co-chair who has largely taken the lead on this. Beyond that very initial discussion about where we'd like to go and some ideas that we have, I would have no further details. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on the Law Enforcement Model Policy Subcommittee report? Seeing none? Okay. Oh, yes.
Do you think you'll have a draft for November of what those recommendations are? Or
So
for
the-
December?
the-
I know yours is a different timing. So just for like the record, what is the timing for yours so that we can remind everybody?
So I'm sorry, let me just drill down. For the work that we've already completed or for where we want to go? in
Where
the
you want to
future?
go? Yeah.
I think that all we're doing for where we want to go at this point is identifying topic areas. I
Okay.
don't think we would have substantive changes to the policy beyond
Until-
that which we already did
Right.
until the next cycle.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to remind folks, you guys are on a little bit different time
We're trying,
cycle than the other subcommittees.
trying to marry
Yeah.
up with what's referred to as the red book in law enforcement
Right.
circles.
So just for the record, that's
you.
why.
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions on that subcommittee report? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we will move on to the Arrest Warrants and Orders of Protection Subcommittee.
We have 2 recommendations that we're going to go forward with. We had considered a third one, but after sending language to Judicial's legal department, it seems like maybe that one would be a little too complicated to move forward on. So we are still working on some of our recommendations from last year, which is reviewing statutory language that we need to consider in order to prepare a confidential address request form for victims in criminal court. And we are also having Darren Mitchell come out to conduct his firearm seizure and compliance workshop with us the week of November 17th. On October 14th, a small group of us are getting together on a local level to discuss current procedures and challenges so that our time with him can be maximized in November.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments on that report?
Shauna or Joe or anybody on the subcommittee, do you want to just update and clarify regarding the language that you're referring to for the statutory language? Does that have to do with supervised diversionary? No. Okay.
That's for the confidential address
Okay,
form.
just the address.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting to that next. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
Any other questions or comments on that report? I just have a couple of clarifying questions, Shauna, if you don't mind. So the committee has a recommendation on the form. Is that accurate?
Yes, it's my understanding that we just need to review language together as a group.
Okay. And then the second recommendation is really just the series of meetings that you're having leading up to the visit from Darren Mitchell?
Correct, and his actual workshop, which is scheduled for November.
Okay. And the third issue, you're just not going to discuss anymore, or will it be brought back to this larger committee, or you're going to talk about it again in the subcommittee, the one that you said was now off the table?
Yeah, I think we're going to discuss it again, but it seems like it might be a little too complicated because it was hopefully a one-off situation in civil court. So we might not be pursuing that one.
Okay.
And then, do you want to just give a little bit of background for those that weren't here regarding the Darren Mitchell visit and then what you're hoping will come out of that? Just really for folks that weren't at the last meeting.
Sure. So we had discussed identifying a pilot site for him to conduct the firearms teacher and compliance workshop. And we thought maybe it would be best that some of the experts in court, we have people from court operations, judicial, the state's attorney's office, the chief public defender's office, getting together to kind of talk about some of our challenges and procedures as they are currently. So that way, hopefully that will help us to identify a pilot site. Because Darren Mitchell had recommended that we identify a pilot site and start small rather than trying to implement something statewide. So that's where we're heading with our series of meetings.
All right. Thank you, Shauna.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions with regard to this subcommittee's report? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next, offender intervention standards.
Okay, the first thing that we contemplated was combining offender program subcommittee and the arrest warrant and order subcommittee. We had our first joint meeting. I think it was very successful. There was a lot of repetition of people around the room. I think it was very much more efficient. And I think it's hopefully something that can be agreed to moving forward, because everyone was at the table and we were doing multiple meetings. That just makes it a lot easier. The second was we talked again about the supervised diversionary program. We had a member of adult probation who oversees that program come and talk a little bit about that program. I think where we landed was to really think about the statutory language being, how at the front end of that process, if additional domestic violence intervention is contemplated to be done at that level. We just have to come up with a language that is acceptable to all parties in that. One concern that was raised by the public defender was putting any sort of language would mean maybe that it would happen in every single case. So we have to kind of craft the language so it is an option for the court to consider. But I think the vast majority of the input was it should be done before the person is ordered into the program, whether that additional treatment would be warranted for that particular person. Lastly, I think based on the state auditor's report, I think we need to kind of decide how part of what our subcommittee was doing is going to be handed off to another entity, another state entity. That's just really a discussion with US co-chairs. How would that even be determined? Remembering that audit report was really for the chief state's attorney. So I'm just not sure the mechanism. I mean, I think we all have ideas on where that might end up, but it's really the mechanism and how do you decide how that happens? And, are we able to reach out and have conversation with the Department of Public Health? If that's one avenue, are we able to do that? Is that allowable? So really it's just a mechanism of getting that done. But I think that if that's the recommendation and we have to adhere to that, or at least seriously consider that, it really means other people coming in to doing that part of the standards that we thought was permissible from what we were doing.
Do you want to just reference what the auditor's finding is, just so people are on the same page? I think that would be helpful. Because what Joe is saying is very relevant, but folks might not all understand the recommendation that you're mentioning.
So our offender standards committee was developed and we were given certain statutory authority. When a law was passed that it had us implement those standards, we as a body were the only ones that could get that up and running, which would be the approval process, how people would get on, how agencies would get on lists. We developed the application process, and we then had the judicial branch and CCADV decided to put those entities on their website. When the auditors audited the domestic violence kind of court process and our standards, one of the things they articulated in one of their findings is that our committee didn't have the authority to implement. We could make the standards, we could do all that, that's fine. But when we pushed into implementation, we went off course. And their recommendation was that a state entity that has, I can't remember the wording exactly, but has the ability or statutory authority to oversee programming, should be the ones to take that implementation and really how to sign up and the quality assurance. A different entity should oversee that rather than our subcommittee, which really does massively impact what we're going to do or what we can do moving forward. So they made that recommendation, but it really didn't give guidance. It didn't guidance about how that was going to be done. Does it have to be a statute? Does it have to be just something that someone just raises their hand and takes? So there's a lot of things we need to kind of figure out.
I think too, part of it was they had to have the ability to do like on-site monitoring, which we don't have the capacity to do as well. Just one more question. Where did the subcommittee, I know in that meeting that we had a few weeks ago, training was also mentioned, but did the subcommittee decide not to move that forward as a recommendation as related?
Training?
As it related to supervised diversionary?
So we're going back to that.
Well, so one of your recommendations was around the supervised diversionary statute, but
Right.
I know in that meeting, training was mentioned. Are you not going to move that recommendation forward?
I think we have to decide, is it going to be a statute or is it going to be training? So once we make that determination, and we'll have that before the deadline, we have a meeting coming up. We have to decide which way to go. If it's a training, that's easier to do, obviously on the statute change.
Okay.
The other thing that we have two other things that we're working on. One, as part of our requirements, is to look at the family violence education program. I had asked CSSD Business Intelligence to really do a pretty deep dive on all the statistics. I was able to get that recently. It's just a lot. Merritt and I have to kind of sit down and cull through it. It's very positive, all the data that I looked at. Obviously, I look at it differently than Merritt might. So we'll sit down and we'll kind of try to package it so that we can maybe present some of it at one of the future committee meetings. And there's some other things we have to kind of be more intentional on in terms of getting additional data based on what I looked at. So that's in the pipeline and really positive. And we also need to meet with the Department of Corrections representative on their treatment and the domestic violence treatment. But again, that might also be kind of dealt with differently based on the standards that we have to kind of deal with that. So I think that domino has to be taken care of, I think, before we really get too deep into finding out what they do, because that's probably one of the biggest questions we're going to have is, does it meet the standards? So it's just a question of, I think, dealing with that bigger issue first.
And then did the data get sent out to the subcommittee as a follow-up from that meeting?
The data from the Family Violence Ed program?
No, from probation. Did anybody receive that? I know there were data points that probation.
Yeah, he was going to. I'll follow up with him.
Okay. All right. So I just want to make sure folks get that information if you guys are going to be looking at what to do with that program moving forward.
Are there other questions or comments regarding this subcommittee report? Senator Kissel.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yeah, so following along with Chairwoman Scanlon's questions regarding this auditor's report, it sort of seems like that's sort of like hanging out there. And would this be an appropriate time for all of us as a whole trying to come up with ideas as to what we do or don't do regarding the auditor's concerns regarding implementation and the authority to implement? Because I'd hate to see Joe and his subcommittee that's been so active, sort of just like sort of stuck out there in limbo, while this is being determined, do they have an ability to act or not act? And I just think that maybe now's the time to address that, unless the chairs don't want. Thank you.
Senator, I appreciate that comment, and I was actually going to ask a similar question, whether or not the subcommittee was researching who does have the capacity. Have you had that conversation? If you don't mind me tagging on to your question.
Mayor and I met this morning and we have a pretty good idea, but I just don't really know. I was hoping to have a conversation with the two of you, because I think it is probably much well beyond our capacity as the co-chairs of a subcommittee to reach out to a state entity. So I think it would have to be something different in our opinion.
As long as there are ideas percolating, I think that's a successful response.
Say it again.
As long as you have ideas that are percolating, I think that's a good response.
Yeah, it's for sure. I think we have a good direction. It's just a question of, I think really for us, it's how do you get there and what would we need to, who would be the authority?
How does it get executed?
100%.
Yeah.
Now I'm just going to tag on to Chairman Flexer's concerns. So I don't know how many times we're scheduled to meet between now and February. This sounds like something that may cause a desire to pass legislation. I don't know. And I just am hoping that whatever happens, whether it's today or a month from today or 2 months from today, that if there is a legislative proposal, and my guess is it may end up before the Judiciary Committee, I know that we're going to want to tackle that when we begin meeting probably as early as January in anticipation of bills coming up in February. And of course, during the short session, it's February to May, and we still typically do the same amount of stuff. We just jam it into a shorter period of time. So I guess that if you want to like talk about this amongst yourselves offline, I'm just hoping there's enough time at the end of the road where if it comes before us as a whole and the recommendation is for legislative enactment or empowerment or changes, that we're able to act on that prior to 2026. That's all.
Thank you, Senator. And I know we do meet again on December 17th, and I think we will have to determine what the schedule is for 2026 relatively soon. So good points. Okay. Are there other comments or questions? I just have a couple of follow-up questions, seeing no comments from anyone else. The data around the family violence education program, that was also shared with the full subcommittee?
No, man, that's just something I just got a few weeks ago. Merritt was on vacation. I think it'd be best if we kind of just did a deep dive and it's all positive. It's not anything we're hiding. It's just, we haven't had a chance to review it as the co-chairs. I think that one of the issues was really about if there would be statutory changes around the application process. And I'm just not sure that the data as it sits today is going to answer that question. We just have to sit together and make that determination. And if we need other data, I think we have the vehicle now. We have the way to get the data. We just have to decide what is the appropriate recommendations to make to the body.
Okay. And so you think those conversations will happen at the next subcommittee meeting?
I think Mayor and I are going to do it separately from that, and then we'll present it at the subcommittee meeting.
Okay. And then you talked about the programs that the Department of Corrections runs. Is there representation from corrections on your subcommittee?
I don't believe so.
Is that a gap that we need to address?
I would say yes.
recognizing that there is membership of the larger council from the department, but that's why I was curious if there was someone specifically from corrections on your subcommittee, and maybe we can ask for the department to consider that.
Yeah, I think good clarifying thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be the person that also sits on this full council. So for any of the agencies and organizations represented, it doesn't need to be the same person. So I just wanted to clarify that.
And there are people from the Department of Corrections that sit on another committee that I'm on. And I was going to reach out to talk to them, but that meeting unfortunately got canceled. So we have connections from Department of Corrections that would be able to help us shepherd this along. It's just a question of finding that, getting that person in the room. We can also email them. That shouldn't be a problem. But I think, again, what we're a little reticent about is, you know, we're going to go down this road and things might change. So we just want to, it's how we kind of fit it all in the right way. So we wouldn't want to spend a lot of time with Department of Corrections reviewing what they have to have another state entity take over the whole thing. And that wouldn't really be a good use of our time. But because we have other things we're working on, but I think making those connections is the easy thing to do.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is other business. Do we have other business?
No, mine is just a reminder for the draft reports, because we are supposed to have the final recommendations at the December meeting, because we have to then submit to the legislature in January. So it's just a reminder that your final, whatever those final recommendations are, have to be in to Liza in November. So just as you're scheduling your subcommittee meetings, just make sure that that's at the top of your mind in terms of timing, because we have to be able to get all that stuff together, put it all together, and then have it ready for the December 17th meeting. So I just wanted to flag that for folks that might have forgotten from the last meeting.
Any other items for other business? Okay, seeing none, I will move on to item number 6 on our agenda, the announcement of our next meeting, which is on December 17th, 2025 at 12:30 p.m. And seeing no other business to come before the council today, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn has been made by Senator Kissel, and I missed who, was it Merritt? Merritt seconded the motion to adjourn. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a nice day.